New York basketball is not as bad as hockey, that's for sure. On New York hockey, there's a good team and then there's a bad team. With New York basketball, there are two good teams, two playoff-bound teams. One team dominating the other team. They play one good game and one really bad game. So why don't we get into the Knicks right now? Because obviously we have a lot of Knicks fans out here on the island. And when you look at the Knicks right now, Speedy, I want to ask you a question before we get my assessment of the Knicks the last couple of games. When you look at the Knicks right now, what do you think first of the New York Knicks?
Overworked starters, for the most part. I think that's the biggest issue right now. We've heard criticisms of the past of Tom Thibodeau tiring out his players, but nothing like to the extent of this. I think they had 5 players already that have played 240-something minutes combined already this year, which they were saying is the most in the league by at least 20 minutes. And for a team that's supposed to have depth, they got to use it more. And I think that's been the biggest flaw when it comes to getting these players to be more consistent. Fournier started strong, and he's had his bad stretch now. RJ Barrett had his great stretch where he was the best player on the team. Now he's started to fall off again. Manuel quickly started slow. Now he's been very good. So they've just been a little too inconsistent in that regard. And I think a lot of that has to do with the getting worn out right away.
I think right now, being that the Knicks are 10-9, and you look at Philadelphia, which we knew Philadelphia was going to fall, especially with Doc Rivers as the head coach. As everybody knows, I'm not a Doc Rivers fan. We look at teams like the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets are 13-8 right now. Who would have thought that the Charlotte Hornets would have the record that they have right now? LaMelo Ball has looked really, really good, and this team is slowly but surely working and playing on all pistons. And even Atlanta has played very well. They've won 7 in a row.
Won 7 in a row, yeah.
They're scoring by the clip. Their superstar player is shooting the threes and making the players around him better. When you look at the Knicks,
play the Knicks today.
You would hope that the Knicks are going to go out strong against them. Is it in New York? We've been talking about this at Atlanta. So looking at Julius Randle, he's not a closer, and it's a huge problem right now because the Knicks don't have a closer. You can't depend on Fournier. They can't depend on Walker. They spent $116 million in the offseason, which obviously he took a pay cut. I don't know Knicks fans are going to say, well, he took a pay cut. He could take a pay cut all he wants. If he's not doing the things that he is expected to do as an offensive player, there's a huge problem. And right now, they don't have a closer with the last 4 minutes of the game where Julius Randle is forcing up shots in certain aspects of the game. His numbers look really, really good, but he's shooting 25 shots a game at the clip. You don't expect to win like that, Speedy. I think it's a huge problem because they don't have that other guy and that other option that they could fall and put the pressure on if they need it.
Yeah, he's put up good assist and rebound numbers this year. And for his shooting, yeah, just more efficiency would be nice. Because for a guy that's supposed to be not necessarily the primary ball handler with the 2-point guards that they have, for a guy that's not supposed to be the biggest rebounder with Nerlens Noel there, with Mitchell Robinson, even Taj Gibson, he's still putting up those numbers, yet it seems like he gets such cold stretches where he loses confidence and can shoot the Knicks out of a game, and that's where you want him to be more of a facilitator. They brought in all this wing depth to improve their overall three-point shooting. Now, the Knicks' pace of play offense is not the fastest. The Knicks are still more of a defensive team. The additions they made in the offseason were at least to get the offense where they were top half of the league, where they could shoot threes more effectively. And if Julius Randle is taking bad shots early in the shot clock, contested ones for no reason, it's not a good look for the Knicks. Barrett, it looked like he had stretches where he was improving his three-point shooting. Get him the ball in the corner a lot more. Fournier has good range, good distance, where they can get even some of the bench players that they have. And now with Quickly heating up, get him the ball more on the three. You don't need to be the scorer and the facilitator would do everything. He's getting near triple-doubles a lot of the game, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to shoot 26 shots. You could shoot 18 and still have that same kind of effectiveness, get 21 and make everyone else around you better and stop wasting the possessions the way you did, where you're also going to wear out your defense inadvertently too if you get in all these scoring droughts. And it seems like the Knicks get a lot of those, especially coming out of the half and also starting the fourth quarter a lot of the time too. And a lot of that is because of him.
And Tom Thibodeau looks like he's a deer out of headlights. I don't say in the headlights because he's out of the headlights. I don't know what the hell is going on right now. And Tom Thibodeau, after the game, when the press talks to him, he doesn't make any excuses, but he's got a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems right now, and if this locker room is not playing together, it could cause a lot of stir as the season progresses and this team completely falls out of a playoff spot. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think the Knicks are still a playoff-bound team. The way the playoffs are going to be set up again this year, where you're going to have to be a play-in team, the Knicks are going to be a play-in team this year. The way Brooklyn is playing, they're the one seed, it looks like. Also, Chicago playing great basketball right now with the players and the acquisitions they made in the offseason. They're 13-7. Miami's 12-7. The Wizards are 12. Who would have thought the Wizards would be 12-7? But that has a lot to do with some of the acquisitions that they made. Is Bradley Beal going to be a Boston Celtic next year? Why would he go to Boston the way he is playing right now on a playoff-bound team? Boston's not even, they're a borderline playoff team right now. They're 10-10. Boston
they need more than wing players right now.
I mean, why would they need Bradley Beal? I know that's what Jeff wants from Tampa, but why would they need another wing player that could score and hog the ball? I mean, you got two of them. You got Jaylen Brown and you have obviously Tatum. So you don't need another guy that's going to be optional, that's going to have to demand the ball. They need a big man. I know that they're talking about making a trade with the Timberwolves. Now, Karl Anthony Towns has been the name that's been popping up. And
right, which is what I recommended for them 2 weeks ago.
Now, if they trade for Karl Anthony Towns, they're going to have to trade one of their guys, Jaylen Brown or Tatum. There is stories coming out that Karl Anthony Towns wants out with the Timberwolves, with A-Rod running the team and Loria. They're probably going to look to move some of these guys. Edwards looks like the guy that they're going to build the team around. So Karl Anthony Towns is a guy that is going to be available to a lot of teams, a.k.a. the Knicks too, if they're looking for an optional big man that can score, shoot the three, and do the things, and it's a superstar player. But is he the closer that the Knicks need? I don't know if he's the closer. The Knicks need a closing guy, a guy that if you give the ball, and by the way, Damian Lillard has played a lot better in the last couple of games. So a lot of people attacking Portland, but Portland slowly but surely is 10-10. They've moved up to the 6th seed right now in the Western Conference. And by the way, when you look at the Eastern Conference and you look at the Western Conference now, over the years, it's always been the Western Conference, the powerhouse, and the Eastern Conference, the weak. Now this year, it's the East powerhouse, and then you look at the Western Conference as the weaker.
The East has 13 teams within like 6 games of each other. Detroit and Orlando are the only like terrible ones. But the Pacers, who are 13th, are still only 6 back of the first place Nets.
You look at the Western Conference, after the Timberwolves, 8-12, 6-13, 5-13, 5-16, 2-16. We starting to see the shift that the Eastern Conference is becoming more of the dominant division than it is the West. And remember, over the years, it's always been top-heavy, the East, and weak on the bottom. Now it's top-heavy on the West and weak on the bottom for the West. So you see the difference, and that's why you look at the Brooklyn Nets right now. They're playing fantastic basketball. Kevin Durant, to me, he's the MVP right now of the NBA. I don't want to hear about Steph Curry. If you want to start putting Chris Paul there, look at what Kevin Durant is doing for his team right now. He's giving you offense. He's even passing the ball right now. He's been fantastic all season long. He's averaging 5 assists a game, the most he's ever had in the beginning of a season. He's 28, 7, and 5. He's been fantastic. He's been one of the best offensive players in the league, 33 years old, coming back from his Achilles injury that he has, and everybody thought he wasn't going to be the same player. Speedy, he has been absolutely fantastic for the Brooklyn Nets.
Carrying the load when a lot of other players have been down this year. James Harden had that rough start to the season. He's playing better now, but rough start to the season. Joe Harris has not had the same season. Obviously, no Kyrie Irving, so they've had to really patchwork that together with Patty Mills. So Kevin Durant's really had to do everything on that team to create a dynamic offense, being the ball handler a lot more often than the Nets probably want him to be. I think as a whole, it's really both affected his game in terms of the stamina, but also elevated his game in terms of, like you were saying, being an MVP candidate and probably the MVP leader right now with what he's had to do with this Nets team. And merging them with that big winning streak right to the top of the Eastern Conference, where they had that rough start to the year too. And the Eastern Conference has been a lot better. They've beaten a lot of quality opponents this year. They've won close games, which really wasn't their strength last year when it came to those tight games, especially on the road too. And that's been a big reason for Durant to elevate his game as a whole too. When a team like this lacks the depth on paper as an older team, especially with the big men, veteran guys that have been not necessarily washed up, but not what they used to be.
Well, if you look at Steph Curry right now, he's averaging 28.4 points a game, which Kevin Durant is averaging more. 5.8 rebounds a game. Kevin Durant is averaging 7, so he's averaging more.
Naturally.
Assists per game, 6.9, which Kevin Durant is averaging 5.3, so only 1 assist less than Steph Curry is right now, and he's a point guard. So to me, if you were to look right now who the MVP of the league right now is, it's not even a question. It's Kevin Durant. I know Golden State right now is 17-2. They have the best record in basketball, which, by the way, everybody that says Steph Curry doesn't have a team around him, that's a joke. I don't want to hear it anymore. They don't even have Klay Thompson in the lineup yet. And this team is 17-2. It's not because of Steph Curry that they're winning. He's averaging 28 points a game. The other players are scoring. He's got 5 players averaging almost 20 points a game. That tells you how much depth that team has. Golden State is one of the teams to be watching, especially with Klay Thompson coming back. But to say that he doesn't have a team behind him is ridiculous and a joke.
It could be hard for the Warriors just to remove Jordan Poole out of his starting spot.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Jordan Poole is averaging almost 19 points a game. Otto Porter is playing great basketball. He's giving you quality minutes. They're getting quality minutes from all these guys. Andre Iguodala is a big part of the team. Andrew Wiggins. You have quality guys giving you the points that you need to be a winning organization. So I'm not surprised. I mean, this is a really, really good team, and they're moving on all cylinders. And by the way, Phoenix is right behind them. 15-game winning streak. And watch out for Chris Paul, because we were talking about Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Chris Paul is right there with them. I mean, averaging 14 points a game, 3 rebounds a game, and 10 assists. This guy is the epiphany of what you want as a point guard in the league. He makes everybody around him better. And for anybody to put Steph Curry in front of him as the best point guard in the NBA, or let's just say the best point guard, top 5 point guard of all time, I would put Chris Paul in the top 5 over Steph Curry any day, any place. So when you have a guy that can play defense, can play offense, makes everybody around him better, I'm taking that point guard. Chris Paul, to me, is the best point guard in the NBA. He still is. And it's not even an argument. He makes everybody around him better. And that is what a point guard does. That is what a point guard is. So I don't want to hear any more about Steph Curry because he averages 28 points a game and he's this, he's that, and he's so flashy that Chris Paul isn't as flashy as him, is not scoring. He's scoring like, 15 points less than him. He's not better than him. He's a better all-around player at the point guard position, and he's the guy. If I want to build my team around a point guard in the prime, I'm taking Chris Paul over Steph Curry any day.